All right, well, I finally got to try Bambulab 3D printers, and my friends, the hype is real. I'm just going to right off the bat say these printers are amazing. But they're not without some quirks. I have found a couple of things that are a bit weird or a bit cumbersome, but we'll get to that. For the most part, though, this video is going to be an overwhelmingly glowing recommendation from me. These 3D printers are sick. And I just want to throw in here real quick, this video is a bit unusual. It's a first impressions video, but when I recorded it, my intention was to actually not do a first impressions video for these printers and to do sort of a project video, which I began work on and kind of have procrastinated on a lot, if I'm honest. And it's quickly approaching the end of the month here, and I do want to get something out, so I figure we will do first impressions. Because largely the reason I've been procrastinating is because I've been really having a lot of fun doing FDM printing again with these printers, and I've found half a dozen projects around the studio to work on using them, and so my time has been eaten up doing that, and I'll share some of those with you here in this video. And before we proceed any further, I would of course like to remind you that these videos are fully fan funded, so if you can help out, come to Patreon or buy me a coffee, become a member of our excellent community, and we've got a ton of STL files, so you don't get nothing for your money. All right, let's get into this. So I've got a few printers here. I've got the A1 Mini, and then I've got the A1 and AMS combo. And for full disclosure purposes, the A1 Mini I bought with my own money. Well, kind of. I used the points system on MakerWorld, and I definitely had some help getting points to do that. So thank you everyone who downloaded some of my models on there, like the fume extraction and stuff like that. That helps me get the A1 Mini for a whole bunch cheaper, which is really cool. And funny story, actually, the reason I did that is because I had tried to get in contact with Bambulab for the longest time, but I could never get through to anyone. So I ended up deciding like, okay, I'll just buy one myself. I don't mind doing that. And then I shit you not, like a week, maybe 2 weeks after I got that thing like delivered to my house, an email pops in my inbox from a representative at Bambulab, and they were like, hey, we love your channel. We'd love to send you some stuff. And it's just like, you're shitting me. But okay, cool. So the A1 AMS combo comes from Bambulab at no charge to the channel, as well as a stack of filaments. They sent me matte PLAs, they sent me tough PLAs, they sent me TPU, and they didn't send me any PETG, which is my fault. I should have asked for PETG because I actually need PETG for a thing that you'll see later in this video. But I did also buy some matte PLA filament from Bambulab as well myself. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. And as always, I'm not afraid to offend or upset these companies and get ghosted by them. So if I have some criticisms, I'll of course share them with you, and I'll try not to let the fact that I got free shit influence me if I can help it. So I began with the A1 Mini, getting that thing out of the box, and right away I was super impressed with how well the thing was packaged, and a little bit of assembly is required for all of these printers, but thankfully I didn't find any of it to be too cumbersome or complicated. But what really stood out to me was just how clearly and concisely Bambulab explain all of the different assembly steps. Like on the A1, for example, there's like little green stickers that show you exactly where the screw needs to go. So I really enjoyed the documentation from Bambulab. I thought that was great. And what's cool is that carries through to the software too. And the way I think I would describe it is it's kind of like Bambulab hold your hand the entire way. And it's almost like they thought of every single possible way that you might fall over, and they've accounted for that. And they are just waiting there to take your hand and pick you up and help you overcome whatever roadblocks you might run into. There really was only one hiccup when it came to putting together the A1 Mini, and it was purely user error. And I do apologize for what you're probably witnessing on screen right now, because yeah, this is like a disgusting example of user error right here. So in my little parts box, there was 2 Ziploc baggies, I believe, containing different sets of screws. And I thought one of those was for this little wiper arm thing that like is to help purge filament. And you'll see that thing doing its job here pretty soon. But the screw that I thought was for this thing just was not reaching. And I was looking around, making sure I wasn't missing any other screws, and it didn't seem like I was. And so I thought, okay, well, I must have just been sent the wrong screw or something. And I had a look through my collection of hardware, and I found a screw that I thought might work, but then that wasn't working either. And so I was starting to get frustrated. And so please forgive me. I took a drill to this thing. And my first thought was like, okay, I'll just like countersink it a little bit, and hopefully that'll give like enough depth for the thing to go all the way through. And then that didn't work. And so at that point I was just like, fuck it. And I drilled all the way through the thing, and I put it on with zip ties. I'm so sorry. I deserve all the hate for that. Oh, and sure enough, I found the fucking thing on the ground after I'd already done all this. So it must have fallen out earlier on and I just missed it. FDM printing with 1 and a 6 side. It's always a trick. Moving on though, everything else was, just absolutely smooth sailing. There was a couple of weird things like QR codes that were broken links, but any information I did need, it wasn't hard to find regardless. So after getting the printer set up, the first thing you do is you connect your MakerWorld account, and you can do it through the Bambulab app. And okay, so I've been using MakerWorld for a little while now, initially just to get those points so I could get a cheaper printer. But I've really fallen in love with it as a platform for sharing 3D files. The user experience is really nice. Everything seems really well thought out on that website. But there's one thing about it that always sort of struck me as a bit odd, and I wasn't quite 100% sure what it was for, and it's the community print profiles. And it didn't really click until I had the Bamboo app loaded on my phone in my hand and connected to an actual Bambulab 3D printer. Because the first thing I wanted to print was the scraper, because the Bambulab printers come with this little metal razor blade thing. It's not razor sharp, but it's got a decent edge on it. And the idea is you print the handle. So that's a fantastic idea for a first print, just to make sure everything is working, I thought. So what I did is I went on MakerWorld and I typed in scraper, and then I found the official Bambulab one. And then that's when I saw the print profiles, and then it clicked. I'm like, oh, right. Okay, so here's other people who have sliced it up, and they've sliced it up how they want it. You know, some of them are multi-material, some of them are single material, some of them have more walls, some have less walls, bottom layers, top layers, and so on and so forth, different infill settings. And they've shared that to this 3D file on MakerWorld. And so as a Bambulab owner, you can then just go through these print profiles that other people have shared, choose the one that suits you, and then basically just click print. It's kind of amazing. And I completely get it now, the whole print profiles thing. I mean, kind of dumb for not getting it. It's in the name. They're print profiles, but experiencing it and getting a feel for it and actually using it is it's game changing, I think. From the perspective of, say, someone totally new getting into FDM printing, to be able to just do that, not having to open a slicer on their computer and get, potentially overwhelmed by all the settings and stuff, just on the mobile app, picking a thing, picking a print profile and hitting go. It's kind of nuts. And so I picked a print profile that didn't use multi-material. I just wanted to get this thing done. And I think it took about 45, maybe 50 minutes to print, and it's beautiful. The print quality is amazing. I did struggle a bit with the included screws for it to get it to attach, because the little securing bit on the back ended up just sort of, delaminating as I tried to screw it in. So then I reprinted that. And here's a great example of how they've literally thought of everything. Because I was thinking okay, well, I want to print this again. I want to use the same community print profile, but I don't want to print the handle. I just want to print the little securing piece. And I was, super happy to see in the app, there's a little setting called parts, and you just click on that and you can literally deselect the parts you don't want and run the print again, which is what I did, and it worked. So the next thing to talk about probably would be the slicer. And I got to say, I'm really impressed with the slicer. There's not really much to fault it for. Again, it has all this hand-holding built in, which is really great. For example, if you try and start a print and it's set to the wrong printer or wrong nozzle or something like that, it'll throw a warning at you. Or if you try and print something that's likely going to fail, it's pretty good at detecting that as well. And it'll say, hey, that's probably not going to work, which is quite good. But the really mind-blowing thing is in the slicer, okay, so here's where I think Bambulab have really done something excellent here, and resin manufacturers could really learn something here. On the printers themselves, when you load a filament, there's actually a bunch of presets built in. And you've of course got your Bambulab ones, which is great. So if you've bought Bambulab filament, whatever it is, their engineers have spent time creating these profiles that work as good as humanly possible with these filaments. So that's amazing. If you want just a drag and drop experience with FDM 3D printing, you buy their filament, you put it on their machine, you tell the machine that that's the filament you're using, and then the machine actually reports that, I believe, to the slicer. So the slicer knows what material you've got in there. And yeah, you just have great print results without having to calibrate settings or tune or know any of that shit. But what's really amazing is it's not locked down. So, and you can see they've actually spent time to create profiles for other popular filament brands. This is amazing. eSun's in there, Poly something or other. There's a whole bunch, and that's incredible. Because I personally love eSun. I buy their filament all the time because I can get good deals on it here in Australia compared to all the other ones, at least. It's been a while since I've checked. Maybe I should do that. But in any case, I love using eSun filament. And I love that this machine gives me the confidence to just pick the eSun filament that I've bought, and then it does the rest. And speaking of the print profiles, I've printed a bunch of different stuff. Like I said, I've done PLA, I've done PLA Tough, I've done TPU, and I even did some PETG. I ended up using eSun PETG. And yeah, the print quality on everything has been amazing. And the print times as well aren't too bad. Like I've noticed the A1, so there's this phone stand that I wanted to print that has some USB slots in it, just a little bit of organization for my desk. And using the 0.28mm draft profile for PLA matte, I can actually do it half an hour quicker than my FL Sun V400, which has been my go-to daily driver, just absolutely favorite FDM printer these last however many months since I got it. I've absolutely just been smitten with the V400. It's so good. The print quality is amazing. It's just so fast. But then here comes this printer doing the exact same thing, and arguably in a more compact, fun size. I don't know. It's just, I hate massive printers. Uniformation just came out with the details of their GK3, and I was so disappointed. It's like, no, not a big printer. Fuck. That's just me. I always want smaller printers. I love smaller printers. Just the user experience, I feel like, starts to exponentially get worse the bigger the printer gets. But anyway, thankfully that wasn't the case with the V400. The V400 is sick. But here comes the A1, and it's the first printer that I feel like, ooh, I might have to kick the V400 now, and the A1 can take its spot because it's just so much more space efficient. So I may be doing that. I may also be giving these printers away to family. In fact, I think I will, because these are the first printers that I really feel confident giving away to family. And that's because of the amount of hand-holding that these machines have. These Bambulab products clearly haven't been built for people who want to know exactly what all the different settings and features of their 3D printer do. These products are very much more for the person who wants to do 3D printing but has zero interest in actually understanding how the thing works. Yeah, I think that's such a great way to introduce people to 3D printing and to share 3D printing with others, and especially in concert with that MakerWorld Bamboo app. And yeah, it's just amazing that they've done this. Like, they could have done what Hey Gears did, and then this would be a completely different video, because Hey Gears kind of did this with resin printing, but they did it by locking you into their ecosystem. So you've got to use Hey Gears resin on the Hey Gears machine and Hey Gears slicer. Like, it's all super locked down and very expensive, which really sucks, because that gives me all sorts of concerns. Like what happens if their server goes down? Oh, guess you can't use the slicer anymore. Or what happens if they stop shipping their resin to your country? Oh no, like now you have to somehow get it some other way and it costs a fortune. Or what if they just stop producing the resin you like? Or change their minds about the pricing one day and increase it 400%. I hate that single point of control, like the walled garden thing. And Bambulab so easily could have been that, but that's not what it is. They've left it open. So they've given you this really beautiful, curated experience that's just holds your hand the whole way. Like I keep saying, I can't think of a better way to put it. It takes care of everything for you, and you can live in that ecosystem if you want. You can buy the Bambulab filament. It's really nice. These matte PLA filaments, I'm in love with. They're so just, they look so good compared to the like glossy PLA I'm used to printing with. But if you want to, you could like just happily stroll outside that ecosystem. Go buy some eSun PLA. Go buy some Creality PLA or some Overture TPU, whatever it is. And you can use it with this machine. You want to use a different slicer? Go for it. And so I think it's that combination of extremely curated, high quality experience, user experience, plus the open-ended, take it as far as you want, do whatever you want with it sort of mindset or ecosystem or whatever the word is here. And I'm smitten with it. I absolutely, yeah. Okay, so let's break these printers down a little bit more. And we'll talk about the AMS too. So the A1 Mini, holy shit, if this isn't the most perfect first FDM printer for someone, I don't know what is. Even like kids too. And so I've got some nieces and nephews. I think this printer, I know exactly where it's going, and I think they are going to get a lot out of it. But also, if you're just limited for space and you want to try out 3D printing, but you don't want the thing to take up a ton of room, just get the A1 Mini. This thing is sick. Like, just because it's smaller, it's in no way less feature rich. It's got all the same bells and whistles. It's a zippy little printer. It's got all the intelligence of its big brother, the A1. They have this blew my mind. They have like filament cutters built into the tool head, which is crazy. So they're able to like trim the filament themselves and then move the print head over to the side, and then they have like a little purge arm thingy where they excrete a little filament poop and then knock it off to the side. So yeah, A1 Mini, incredible deal. And then the A1 is if you've got a bit more space and you want to be able to print slightly larger stuff. The A1, in my opinion, is like the perfect print volume. It must be like 99% of the stuff I've ever FDM printed. And when I do FDM printing, it's mostly sort of like practical, useful stuff around the house. More and more lately, it's ways to optimize the studio, make the studio more efficient, more practical. And it's so rare to need a printer larger than this. In fact, there's only one thing I've tried printing that really needs a larger printer, and that's for an absolutely ridiculous idea of a video that's been in the works and is kind of dead in the water because, yeah, having like a bigger printer is just like more problems. Also, the way I was trying to use it is more problems. But anyway, I'm getting off track. By the way, how are you finding this style of first impressions video where rather than me reacting sort of in real time and sharing my thoughts on a printer, I'm sort of retroactively doing it? Be keen to know. Also, before we continue, I better real quick talk about Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon because I got to pay the bills. So don't go anywhere. And huge thanks to Atlan Forge, Arcane Whiskers, Imp3D, Sion, Lucas with a C, Artificers Mini, Dungeons and Dreadnoughts, Tractor Minis, Fabricator's Lair, and Major Muffin. All of these artists have contributed a fantastic collection of STL files for Once in a Six Side members this month of July 2024. There's just some absolutely excellent stuff in here, and I'm so grateful to all of these artists for your support. So come join the Once in a Six Side membership, buymeacoffee.com or patreon.com. Buy Me a Coffee is the better one. Your money goes further on that. But I understand if that's more friction, so just use Patreon if that's easier for you. I'm extremely grateful either way. We also have the Welcome Pack, and everything in the Welcome Pack is available all the time, year round. So if you're seeing this video after July, no worries. There's likely going to be, or hopefully going to be, some really cool exclusive rewards to whatever month you're watching this in. But also the Welcome Pack, we've got the best goddamn base pack in the whole of STL miniature gaming verse. They're just plain round bases and oval bases, but they're very good. Let's just say that. And they're pre-supported for resin if you want to do it that way. But I like printing them in FDM. And yeah, there's a bunch of terrain and some minis and a whole bunch of cool stuff in there. So be sure to check out the Welcome Pack. So hopefully I've been successful in getting this video out before the end of July, which if I have, do hurry, come get the files real quick because we're almost out of time. FOMO. All right, thank you so much. Let's get back to talking about the Bamboo 3D printers. Okay, so everything so far has been super glowing. I'm absolutely in love with these printers. The A1 is very likely replacing my V400. I really love the matte PLAs. The slice is great. MakerWorld's great. There's been a few quirks, but overall pretty good. I should talk about some print results real quick. There's going to be more details on these print results in the follow-up video, but here I just want to mention that overall I'm like completely happy with the print quality I'm getting off of these machines. But I noticed one weird thing, and it's kind of like elephant's foot, but it's not. I don't know. I'd be keen to hear from anyone watching this who's had the same thing with their printers and figured out what it was. I haven't spent any time trying to figure this out, but I noticed it and I thought it's weird. But yeah, these bases from my base pack that I printed, it looks like the first 10 layers or so, they're printing at one angle, and then all of a sudden it just drastically changes and becomes a much steeper angle, when that whole face around the edge of the base should be the same angle. So yeah, that's super weird. I don't know what that's about, but I didn't notice the same problem on any of the other models printed. So yeah, that's a weird one. And I played around with a ton of different print profiles. They're all fantastic. That's got to be the biggest selling point for these printers, really, is just the included print profiles, in my opinion, because it means I don't have to tune anything. But yeah, I went through and tried a bunch of different print profiles, and I even changed the nozzle on the A1 Mini. Now, both of these printers use the same print head. They're identical, so they both have the same procedure for changing out a nozzle. And this absolutely blew my mind. Like, it was completely toolless. You just pop the cover off, and then there's like a little clamp thingy, and then the nozzle just comes right out. Absolutely insane. So it was just so easy. I was so impressed. And then all I did after that was I just ran the little automatic calibration thing from the settings. So just literally a couple of taps. And then on the computer, I just told it that I changed the nozzle to a 0.2, and that was it. As for whether you should bother with a point 2 nozzle, I'll leave that for the next video. And just one final sort of weird, maybe undesirable trait of these printers that I want to quickly address before we get into the AMS is they feel, despite being quite snappy and speedy little printers, I can't help but feel like they're very slow, simply because they take forever to actually start printing when you send a job to them. So these printers have a whole pre-print calibration process where they go through and do a few things before they're happy to start printing. And you can disable a bunch of that. I don't know if you can disable even more, but it doesn't seem to help. It still feels like it takes a long time. And this is literally maybe one of, there's one more thing I'll talk about in a second, but maybe one of two things that really just my current favorite printer, the V400, does better. And that is like, I can just send a job to the V400 and just straight away it springs to life and it's printing. It's amazing. And especially if I'm keeping it at temperature, I can really quickly iterate on a design, print a part, like send a part to it, it starts printing, and then the print ends. I can quickly just tell it, hey, keep yourself hot, I'll be back in a second. And then, try the part. And then if it's not good and I need to make a small change, I can quickly make the change, send it to the printer, like click, click, and then straight away it's printing again. And that is so satisfying, and just it really helps make the whole workflow of like rapidly prototyping something feel really speedy. It makes you feel really connected with the machine. That is sadly missing here with these Bambulab printers. And yeah, I did try disabling as much of this stuff as I could to hopefully get it to behave the same way. But yeah, for whatever reason, it just still takes so long to start printing, which sucks. But then once it is printing, it's nice and fast. So there is that. Now, the other thing that is slightly annoying is it uses one of these PTFE tubes to go from the filament to the print head. I personally dislike this a lot because you got to kind of like feed it through, pushing it through a little bit at a time. And then the spool kind of does whatever the spool wants to do. So just a minor grievance there. I prefer to not have that. And in fact, I may just omit it from mine. And I think that will be fine. If I have, you should be seeing it on screen right now. Is it working? Probably working. Okay. Let's talk about now the AMS. So the AMS was relatively easy to set up and get plugged in and connected and all that. No complaints there. And something that was really cool straight away is when you load on bamboo filaments, it actually can automatically detect what they are, I guess, from the labels. And so the slicer then reflected the filaments I'd loaded. So that was insane to me. Unfortunately, you can't print TPU with the AMS, which is annoying. So I had to like disconnect one of those little hoses. What's it called? PTFE tube to print with TPU. So that was a little bit annoying. But the fact that this thing has like a pretty good TPU profile is great, because TPU has been giving me so many headaches this year, and I'm not going to get into it this video, but I will at some point. There has been a TPU project that is just absolutely killing my life, but we'll get there. So to me, I was going into the AMS with a lot of bias that I'm going to hate it. And I've got a few reasons for that. One, I think it's just going to take up too much space, like because you've got already the footprint of the printer, and now you're effectively doubling that by adding this filament system. And someone who's like extremely limited for space, I don't love that. And another significant detractor for this thing is like just how much it can potentially increase print times by. If the majority of your layers have more than a couple of materials in it, then each of those layers is going to take forever while the printer swaps over filaments. And you can reduce the time a bit by like turning off the purge tower, maybe a couple of other things I'm not aware of yet, but it still takes a hell of a lot of time. And so the reason I wanted PETG is because I was really interested in the idea of printing miniatures where the supports are 100% printed in PETG. I thought that would have been really cool, because then the PETG doesn't stick very well, if at all, to PLA, and so they would remove super easily. And this was a bit confusing to set up in the slicer, but I figured it out eventually. And I came across a Reddit post where this guy, Tommy Onefoot, so cheers, Tommy Onefoot, had this cool idea of setting it so only the interface layers where the supports meet the model are printed in PETG. And so I tried to do that, but it looks like this might be a bug inside Bamboo Studio, because it didn't work. And you can see like when I switch it over to like regular grid supports or whatever they're called, it works fine. And you can see those interface layers really clearly. So I think it just doesn't work for tree supports, which sucks, because you kind of have to use tree supports if you're going to print miniatures. Because I tested the different kinds, and I did the grid supports first. And while they work really well, the issue is they have a tendency to sort of wrap around and fully encapsulate a model. And so when it comes time to removing them, it's really easy to accidentally break stuff. Whereas tree supports, they don't do that and they come away much easier. But yeah, using a different material as a support material to print a single Terminator increased the print time from like 9 hours to 60 hours, which is just absolutely absurd. And I did send it. I was like, yeah, fuck it. You know, I'm here. I'm making a video about printing miniatures. Let's do it. We'll send it and see what happens. And my God. So I had to baby this print basically for 2 days. Because spoiler alert, it didn't succeed. We didn't get the final day in. Because what was happening is so weird. The little purge wiper thingy, the printhead would come park itself correctly, and then it would extrude some filament and create a little poop, and then the little poop arm would swipe itself across to remove the poop, but the poop was like getting flipped over across the other side and ending up on the bed. And hopefully I've got some good footage and I can show you exactly what a mess this was creating here. And I think this is a result of the PETG, because PETG is like, it's like mozzarella. It's particularly stringy. So that was super unfortunate. And yeah, eventually this did end up making the print fail. And that was when I was sleeping, because, you know, I couldn't baby it the whole time. 60 hours, that would have been a heroic commitment. And yeah, it's not one I wanted to make. So yeah, that was a terrible experience. I will say though, for the parts that I do have, the PETG did pull away really nicely and left a good surface on the parts. So it works, but my God, fuck that. No way. I think where the AMS really is going to shine is only a very few specific use cases. So if you like printing inlays, which is something I do enjoy doing, and I printed these speaker stands because I just got this new desk. It's a standing desk. It's fantastic. Not sponsored. I paid for it with my own money, my Patreon money. Thank you, everyone. You paid for it. You bought me a standing desk. It's so good. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do, but like the first day of having it, I was overshooting something with the camera, and then I pulled the SD card, walked over to the desk, plugged it in, and then I went, oh, I get it. Because I didn't have to sit down and then like pull in my chair and then plug in the SD card. No, it's just I walked over to the desk and I plugged it in, and I was instantly copying across my files, and then I could just turn around and go back to the workbench. So really impressed with this. I can't remember the brand off the top of my head, but I'll leave a link in the description if you want one. Highly recommend it. And of course, I've cable managed the shit out of it with 3D printing. But yeah, getting off track. I've printed these speaker stands and they have a giant inlay. And I tried doing these in tandem, one on my V400 and one on the A1. And interestingly, the one on the V400 kept failing on me. So I ended up just abandoning that. And I printed these entirely on the A1. And they turned out absolutely beautiful. And this is a design of my own, and it uses these like TPU inserts, hopefully to act as like some sound dampening. Because if you look at how much like official monitor stands like this cost, it's insane. And I was like, I'm not going to pay that. I'm just going to DIY my own. So I'll put these on MakerWorld as well, so you can go get them if you want to. It literally just uses some 25mm dowels. This is actually broom handle. Yeah, TPU inserts, and then PLA, or you print it in PETG or whatever you want for the rest of it. And they are working super nice, I must say, and they look pretty cool. Oh, but I can't share the design, unfortunately. So the one that I upload to MakerWorld won't have the inlay in it, just because it's artwork that belongs to a friend of mine, and I don't have the rights to do that. So I'm not going to do that. So anyway, inlays. I love doing them, and I do them a decent amount, but I don't think I do them enough to the point that I've ever felt like it's a problem that has to be solved by some piece of hardware or tool. Because honestly, to set these up is incredibly simple. It is not hard at all to do. So I've never minded doing it. And actually, if you want to know how to do your own inlays on any model with any graphic you like, and even how to print sick inlays without an AMS, I've gone ahead and made a tutorial, and I'll leave a link in the description. And I promise you this superpower will make you exactly this amount of excited to use your 3D printer even more. Look at him go! But yeah, it's nice to have a machine do it for you, that's for sure. But you'd want to be sure it's something you do a lot to justify the cost and the footprint of the AMS. Yeah. What else? Another advantage, I guess, would be if you wanted to print something absolutely enormous. that's going to take more than one spool of filament, and you want to make sure it can automatically take up another spool once the first one runs out. I got to double check, but I'm pretty sure both A1 and A1 Mini are capable of filament runout detection without the AMS. So even without the AMS, if you had a giant print, it would just pause and wait for you to add more filament if it came to it. But yeah, it's another thing, like you could just automate that if you wanted to. But again, in my experience, that's something that's just so rarely going to come up. Is it worth the extra space and the extra cost? Me personally, I don't think so. And I FDM print quite a bit. I really do. I love FDM printing, but less so for like tabletop gaming stuff, at least lately. Lately, it's been more just practical, useful stuff, like this filament holder. How cool is that? These are printed in Bambulab PLA Tough. And yeah, print profile, of course, is great. They look amazing. They printed in decent time and they work really well. So, all right, final thoughts. I bloody recommend these printers. If you are interested in getting into FDM printing, God, it's a no-brainer. Just buy an A1. Or if you don't want to invest as much and you also want it to take up less room, A1 Mini. These printers are glorious, truly. Now, the video that goes in depth on like these different print profiles and the miniatures and the results and the quality and blah, 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 that's going to be a separate video, and I think that's going to come out early next month. That'll be probably the very next video after this one. But that's my take on the Bambulab A1 and A1 Mini and AMS. Overall, very, very cool. I think I'm going to keep the A1. A1 Mini is going to go to family. And yeah, patreon.com/once-in-a-six-side, buymeacoffee.com/once-in-a-six-side. And what else? Oh, affiliate links. Yeah, I'll leave affiliate links down below for this stuff so you can help support the channel that way if this has helped you with a buying decision. All right, cheers.